Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Lower program.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
Greetings. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. In my career, from the battlefield to Congress, honor and integrity have always been my compass. When it comes to building a precious metals portfolio for my family, I choose United Patriot Corn. Their commitment to honesty and transparency aligns with everything I stand for. They care about our great country and focus on serving patriots from all walks of life. They've teamed up with veterans of the precious metals market to create a new kind of gold dealer designed to serve the needs of a new type of gold buyer. And that's why I know I can trust them when it comes time to buy my gold and silver. If you value honesty and reliability as I do, then join me. You know, there's a lot of unrighteous indignation going on with the Democrat Party, the progressive socialist left. It seems to me that they don't really understand the three branches of government and their duties, responsibilities, roles, relationships, the whole separation of powers, checks and balances thing. Because what is happening in Washington, D.C. right now is that, as Barack Obama once said, elections have consequences. The Democrats lost. They lost the White House. They lost the Senate. They do not have control of the House. And there's a 6-3 constitutional conservative majority on the Supreme Court. Maybe instead of going around and throwing temper tantrums and stomping their foot like a petulant child in a grocery store cereal aisle, they should go back and look at themselves and say, how is it that we find ourselves in this position? And when you think about it, it wasn't too long ago that the Democrats controlled the White House. They had a big majority in the House and the Senate. And that was in 2000, after the 2008 election, 2009. And then what happened with Barack Obama's first midterm election? He got spanked in the House of Representatives. I was part of that. Some 60 some odd seats. They lost. And then, of course, he won re-election in 2012. Didn't have a strong candidate in Mitt Romney. But the next thing you know, he loses the Senate in his next midterm election cycle after his re-election. So slowly but surely, what you've seen is this trending away from the chicanery of the left. And now, of course, Joe Biden won in 2020. And I think it was a godsend that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won in 2020. We got a clear indication. We had a clear vision into who the left really is, the leftists are in the United States of America. And what happened in 2024? Completely rejected. And then there's this little thing that no one really wants to tackle, this 8 to 10 million loss of electoral support between 2020 and 2024. That's not something you just kind of like wink, wink and, whistle past the graveyard on. Something happened there. But when you look at what Donald Trump is doing, he's doing what he said he was going to do. He is downsizing the federal government. And the left is throwing a fit about that. Even though all of this wasteful spending, I mean, line item by line item, is being exposed to the American people. What's funny to me is that the left is not trying to defend any of this fraud, waste, and abuse that's been, well, brought into the limelight. They're just not happy that the temple of their false god of big government, well, they're being destroyed one by one. But it's important, I think, that we look at this from a constitutional understanding. Because again, I think Democrats are confused about the three branches of government. In Article 2 of the Constitution, and I understand, Article 1 is the legislative branch, Article 2, executive branch, Article 3, the judicial branch. But Article 2 in the Constitution of the United States of America starts out by clearly explaining that the executive power rests within the President of the United States. The United States, the federal government, not these United States, which is all 50 states together to form this constitutional republic. The President of the United States of America is the chief executive officer of the federal government. The executive branch, all those agencies, all those bureaucracies and everything, they fall under Article 2. They fall under the executive power of the chief executive, who is the President of the United States. That's the Constitution. Now, perhaps people in Washington, D.C. do not understand. And you would think that legislators who supposedly take an oath to support and defend the Constitution would understand what the Constitution says, but obviously they don't. The people in the federal government, the executive branch, don't work for the legislative branch. They fall under the executive branch. The people the staffers and everything that work in the House or the Senate, they fall under the purview of who? The legislative branch. See, President Trump cannot go in as the chief executive officer of the executive branch. He can't go in and fire a congressional staffer. He can't go in and offer a buyout to a congressional staffer, but he can to a person that falls under the purview of the executive branch, government agencies and bureaucracies. Now, what do we have? Checks and balances, co-equal branches of government. You do have jurisdiction from the legislative branch over the executive branch to make sure that they are executing properly in conjunction, accordance, pursuance thereof to the Constitution of the United States of America. So if the executive branch wants to go and spend money or things like that, they have to go and sit before the Committee of Jurisdiction, advise and consent. That's part of the Constitution. It's in Article 2. The people that the president selects to head up his respective agencies, bureaucracies in the executive branch have to go and be scrutinized. We call them Senate hearings, congressional hearings. So that's how the system of checks and balances comes in. That's how this whole separation of powers thing really plays out. But what the left doesn't understand is that you can't tell the president of the United States of America how to run the executive branch, especially when it comes to aligning the executive branch with its constitutional duties and responsibilities as articulated in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. See, I think that there are some people in the legislative branch should go back and look at the 18 enumerated powers, duties, responsibilities, roles, purviews, whatever you want to call it, of the federal government. Because we've gotten way outside coloring in those lines. The chief executive officer, he's been appropriated funds to run the executive branch. He can run it like a private sector business, which people who have been in Washington, D.C. too long don't understand. So when you come in and you say that, we need to downsize the federal government, we're going to have a policy of buyouts. We'll buy out your contract in this fiscal year. For the remainder of this fiscal year through September, you will continue to get paid. You don't have to come in and work. You're not doing it anyhow, but you'll continue to get paid. But in the new fiscal year going forward, you won't be in that position. And now all of a sudden people saying, you can't do that? Of course, where does it say he can't? Of course he can. And he's not going and asking for additional funds from the legislative branch, mainly the House of Representatives, because they're the keeper of the purse string. He's saying that we're going to downsize and right-size the federal government based upon its 18 duties and responsibilities that the Constitution lays out. That's all. Foreign aid, I understand it, I get it. But that should be under the purview of who? The State Department. We already have that. So why do we have this other agency, which was created in the Kennedy administration by executive order, and now all of a sudden the left saying, well, he can't get rid of the United States Agency for International Development by executive order. It was created by executive order. It wasn't created by law. There's no statutory requirement for it. When you look at some of the things that they're spending money on, it's ideological. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. So I think that what is happening is a great opportunity for us to realize that the left loves this big government thing. Even though Bill Clinton, back after he got bushwhacked in his 1994 midterm election, he gave a State of the Union address that said the era of big government is over. That's not what the left believes in. They want to have complete control and power over every aspect of your life. What Donald Trump is saying is the government is too big. It is not a tax issue in America, it's a spending issue in America. And when we look at some of these things that are being revealed to us line by line in an agency like USAID, we see that it is a spending problem. And it is also an unconstitutional focus problem. My taxpayer dollars should not be going to fund comic books, LGBTQ comic books, or drag queen shows, or any of this other nonsense they're coming up with. Should not be happening. But when you continue to see these Democrats ranting and railing, and oh, by the way, in the private sector, when someone wants to get an outside look, you can have a third-party auditor. You can have what they call a consultant come in and take a look at your effectiveness and efficiency. We even had this thing called Lean Six Sigma that we used to train people in the military, and they come in and look at your organizational effectiveness. That's what Elon Musk is doing. Not even getting a paycheck. Doge is not authorized by us. Who elected Elon Musk? Who elected George Soros? Who elected all of these other people that, czars, czarinas, and everything that, we saw in the Obama administration and Biden administration, all these other administrations that the left was in charge of. See, they just don't want that temple of big government to be destroyed. When you think about Washington, D.C., how it went 96 to 97% for Kamala Harris, Washington, D.C. has become a self-licking leftist ice cream cone. They don't want anything to change it. So, President Trump, he's doing what people elected him to do. And who does not want to have a more effective and efficient federal government? Who does not want to make sure that their taxpayer dollars, their resources are spent in alignment with the constitutional duties and responsibilities of the federal government? Not pet projects, not ideological agendas. And if Democrats continue to whine and rant and rave like they're doing, it's going to be a very bad midterm election cycle for them, which means they will get pushed further and further into political exile. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, the Steadfast and Loyal program. We'll be right back.
before they burn it down.